The rain had been falling since early morning, turning the streets outside Fort Hamilton into a sheet of gray water. Soldiers hurried across the courtyard with their heads lowered, officers moved between buildings carrying folders and briefcases, and military vehicles rolled through the security gates one after another. Inside the main administration building, the atmosphere was even more intense. A senior military conference was scheduled to begin at 9 o'clock, and everyone seemed to be preparing for the arrival of the officers who would attend it. Everyone, except the woman sitting quietly at the far end of the lobby. Her name was Elena Carter. She was 38 years old, though the exhaustion in her eyes made her look older. She wore a simple dark gray coat that had clearly seen better days. Her shoes were clean but worn, and she carried a small brown handbag against her knees. She had been sitting there for nearly 40 minutes. Nobody had asked her name. Nobody had asked why she was there. And nobody seemed interested in finding out. A young officer walked past her without even looking up from his phone. Two civilian employees entered the building, laughing together as they hurried toward the elevators. One of them glanced at Elena, then whispered something to the other. Both smiled. Elena lowered her eyes. She was used to it. People often decided who she was before she ever had the chance to speak. She looked like someone who didn't belong inside a place like this. But she had not come to ask for charity. She had not come to complain. She had come because she had been summoned. That was the part nobody knew. At 8:47 a.m., a security officer finally approached her. "Ma'am?" Elena looked up. "Yes? Can I help you?" "I was told to report to Colonel Davis." The officer looked at her from head to toe. "Do you have an appointment?" "Yes." "Name?" "Elena Carter." He typed something into a tablet. Nothing appeared to happen. He frowned. "Are you sure this is the correct building?" "Yes. Colonel Davis doesn't usually meet civilians here." "I'm aware." The officer sighed. "Do you have identification?" Elena opened her handbag and handed him an identification card. He examined it. His expression changed slightly. "Wait here." He walked away. Elena watched him disappear behind a security door. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Then 15. No one came back. Elena checked the old watch on her wrist. 9:05. The conference had already begun. She wondered if Colonel Davis had forgotten. Then she heard laughter from nearby. 3 officers were standing beside the coffee station. One of them glanced toward Elena. "Still here?" The other officer smiled. "Maybe she thinks this is a hotel lobby." They laughed. Elena pretended not to hear. She had learned long ago that reacting to every insult only gave people more power. Her mother had taught her that. Never let someone else's ignorance decide who you are. Those words had stayed with Elena for years. She reached into her handbag and touched a small silver pendant. It had belonged to her mother. She closed her fingers around it. "Just a little longer," she whispered. A receptionist finally approached her. "Ms. Carter?" Elena stood immediately. "Yes. Colonel Davis is unavailable." Elena's expression remained calm. "Was he informed that I arrived?" "Apparently." "Did he say why he wanted me here?" "No." The receptionist glanced at the folder in her hands. "But honestly, I don't think there's any point waiting." Elena stared at her. "What do you mean?" The receptionist lowered her voice. "I'd suggest you leave." Elena didn't move. "I was specifically instructed to come here." "I understand. But the officers are busy today." "So am I." The receptionist looked surprised. Elena continued quietly. "I took 2 buses to get here. I left my job early. I arranged for my daughter to stay with my neighbor. If Colonel Davis asked me to come, I think I deserve at least 5 minutes of his time. The receptionist looked uncomfortable. Before she could answer, the elevator doors opened. A group of high-ranking officers stepped out. Everyone in the lobby immediately straightened. The receptionist hurried toward them. Elena remained where she was. One of the officers stopped beside the receptionist. "Is General Walker here yet?" "Not yet, sir. He'll be arriving any minute." The atmosphere changed instantly. General Walker. Even Elena knew that name. General Marcus Walker was one of the most respected officers in the United States military. A 4-star general with more than 3 decades of service, he had commanded missions overseas, advised presidents, and received some of the highest military honors in the country. He was known for being strict, disciplined, almost impossible to impress. And he was expected to arrive for the conference within minutes. The officers began checking their uniforms. The receptionist adjusted her hair. Security personnel moved toward the entrance. Nobody noticed Elena anymore. That was fine with her. She had spent years being invisible. She knew how to wait. At exactly 9:21, a black military sedan stopped outside the building. The doors opened. A 4-star general stepped out. General Marcus Walker. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and dressed in a perfectly pressed military uniform covered with ribbons and medals. His expression was serious as he walked through the entrance. Every officer in the lobby snapped to attention. "Good morning, General." Walker barely acknowledged them. He continued walking. Then he stopped. His eyes had landed on Elena. For a second, nobody understood what had happened. The general stared at her. Elena stared back. Something changed in his face. His expression, usually controlled and unreadable, suddenly became filled with shock. He took one step toward her. Then another. The entire lobby became silent. Elena slowly stood. "General?" Walker stopped directly in front of her. He looked at her face as if he were trying to make sure he wasn't mistaken. Then, in front of every officer and civilian in the building, the 4-star general raised his right hand to his forehead. And saluted her. The room froze. Someone dropped a coffee cup. It hit the floor with a loud crack. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Elena's eyes filled with tears. She hadn't expected this. Not here. Not after all these years. The general lowered his hand. His voice was quiet. "Major Carter." A stunned whisper moved through the lobby. "Major?" The woman everyone had assumed was a civilian? Elena swallowed. "Sir." General Walker stepped closer. "I thought I'd never see you again." Elena looked away. "I thought the same." The general's eyes became moist. Then he turned toward the people standing around them. His voice suddenly became firm. "Why was Major Carter left sitting here?" Nobody answered. The receptionist looked terrified. One of the officers stepped forward. "Sir, we didn't realize." "You didn't realize what?" The officer stopped. General Walker looked around the room. "This woman is Major Elena Carter." He paused. "She served this country for 17 years. Silence. She saved the lives of 23 soldiers during an operation that most of you have probably never even heard about." The general's voice grew colder. "And she was awarded the Silver Star for it." The receptionist's face went pale. Elena quietly shook her head. "General, please." Walker looked at her. She gave him a small pleading expression. "Don't." He understood. He turned back toward the officers. Everyone back to work. People immediately scattered. But nobody forgot what they had witnessed. The woman sitting alone in the corner wasn't a nobody. She was a hero. And apparently, even a 4-star general still considered it an honor to salute her. Walker turned toward Elena again. "Why didn't you tell them who you were?" Elena gave a faint smile. "Because I shouldn't have to." The general nodded slowly. "That's exactly what I thought you'd say." He motioned toward a private hallway. "Come with me." Elena hesitated. "Where?" "My office. I was supposed to meet Colonel Davis." Walker stopped. "Colonel Davis?" "Yes." His expression changed. "Did he send you a letter?" Elena reached into her handbag and pulled out an envelope. She handed it to him. Walker opened it. His eyes moved across the page. Then his face became serious. "Where did you get this?" "Last week." "Who delivered it?" "A man who said he worked for the department." "Did you speak to anyone else?" "No." Walker looked at the signature. Something about it bothered him. "This isn't Colonel Davis's signature." Elena frowned. "What?" Walker showed her the letter. "Look carefully." She did. Her heart sank. The signature looked genuine. But now that she knew what to look for, something seemed wrong. "Then why was I called here?" "I don't know." Walker folded the letter. "But we're going to find out." He led her into his office. The room was large but surprisingly simple. There were military photographs on the walls, shelves filled with awards and books, and a large American flag standing behind his desk. Elena sat down. Walker remained standing. For several seconds neither spoke. Finally he said, "How have you been?" Elena smiled sadly. "That's a complicated question." "I have time." She looked at him. "Not really." He smiled. "You always were stubborn. And you always were impatient." For the first time that morning, General Walker laughed. It was a quiet laugh. Almost nostalgic. Then the smile disappeared. "Tell me what happened after you left the service." Elena looked down at her hands. "I went home. And? I tried to live normally." "Did it work?" "No." Walker nodded. He knew exactly what she meant. Some people could leave the military. But the military never completely left them. Elena had spent years trying to build an ordinary life. She had worked as a school counselor. She had raised her daughter alone. She had avoided military ceremonies and refused interviews. When people asked about her past, she simply said she had served. Nothing more. But there was another reason she had stayed away. A reason Walker didn't know. "Why did you disappear?" he asked. Elena looked toward the window. "Because people were asking questions I couldn't answer." "What kind of questions?" "About the mission." Walker became still. The mission. There it was. The event that had changed everything. 17 years ago, Elena had been a young army major assigned to a dangerous overseas operation. Her unit had been ambushed. Communication systems had failed. The command structure had collapsed. 23 soldiers had been trapped. Elena had gone back for them. Again and again. She had ignored orders to retreat. She had carried wounded soldiers through enemy fire. She had stayed behind until every surviving soldier was evacuated. But there was one part of that mission that had never been made public. One soldier had disappeared. A young lieutenant named Daniel Reeves. His body was never recovered. The official report said he was presumed dead. Elena had never accepted that explanation. For 17 years, she had carried the belief that Daniel might still be alive. Walker sat across from her. "Is this about Daniel?" Elena looked at him. Her silence was enough. Walker took a slow breath. I was afraid you'd say that. You knew? I suspected. Then why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't have proof. Elena's eyes hardened. Do you have proof now? Walker reached into a drawer and pulled out a sealed folder. He placed it on the desk. Elena stared at it. What is that? Something that arrived 3 days ago. From where? An intelligence unit. Her heart began beating faster. Walker pushed the folder toward her. Open it. Elena hesitated. Then she slowly opened the folder. Inside was a photograph. A recent photograph. The image showed a man standing outside a small building in another country. Elena's fingers began to shake. She knew that face. Even after 17 years. Even older. Even thinner. She knew him. Daniel Reeves. Her voice broke. He's alive. Walker nodded. Yes. Elena covered her mouth. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Where is he? We don't know yet. Then why show me this? Because someone else knows we're looking for him. Elena looked up. What do you mean? Walker pulled another document from the folder. This photograph was sent to our intelligence office anonymously. Who sent it? We don't know. Why? Walker looked directly into her eyes. Because whoever sent it also included a message. Elena's stomach tightened. What message? Walker slid a small piece of paper across the desk. Elena picked it up. There were only 8 words written on it. She read them once. Then again. Her face went pale. What does it say? Walker asked. Elena slowly looked at him. It says. Her voice trembled. Tell Major Carter they remember what happened. Walker stared at her. The room suddenly felt colder. For 17 years, Elena had tried to forget the past. Now the past had found her. And someone powerful enough to reach inside military intelligence wanted her to know that they had never forgotten her either. Walker stood. We need to leave this building. Elena looked confused. Why? Because if someone was able to arrange that fake letter and bring you here without raising suspicion, then we have a security breach. He walked toward the door. General? Walker stopped. Elena held the photograph of Daniel tightly. If he's alive. Walker looked back. I know. We have to find him. We will. And if the people who took him are still out there? Walker's expression became hard. Then they'll learn something they should have learned 17 years ago. What? The general looked at the woman he had once served beside. Never underestimate Major Elena Carter. For the first time in years, Elena stood straighter. The frightened woman who had walked into the building that morning was gone. In her place stood the soldier who had once walked through enemy fire to save 23 lives. And somewhere beyond the walls of Fort Hamilton, someone was watching. Someone who knew her name. Someone who knew her secret. And someone who had just made the biggest mistake of their life by bringing her back into the fight.